Okay, so we just got done with week 14, and it's time for me to lose my shit again. Let's get into it.
Come on, somebody come get this, man.
And it's back. The Thursday night football we know and despise has returned now. The first half of this game wasn't fun, but it was baffling to see the Patriots move the ball down the field. Even though New England was playing for absolutely nothing, Belichick's pride can't let him lose to the Steelers, even with this team. Highsmith and TJ Watt's injuries were tough, but they play defense, not offense. And for the second week in a row, Matt Canada, who died for this team's sins, has only proved to just be part of the problem in Pittsburgh. Guys, Trubisky's bad at football. During the entire second half, it took a lot of motivation for me to finish this game. The Patriots just went on cruise control, or I guess they just put in their actual offense and almost choked the game, but a questionable false start was a dagger to their throats, and now Pittsburgh just lost 2 games in a row to the 2 worst teams in football, the Cardinals and the Patriots. Are you kidding me? But I would put more stock into this if this were any team other than the Steelers, and somehow, some way, I'm sure Mike Tomlin is going to find a way to get the Steelers into the playoffs, and he probably will, but, I mean, come on, realistically, how long can this go on for? I am not a Lions fan. Let's get that out of the way first. But this is depressing. Take a journey back into your memory, back in Week 10, just a month ago, when the Lions outdueled the Chargers after the Ravens loss and were establishing the run, mixing in efficient golf plays, but most importantly, this team had swag and a intimidation factor. Everyone knew if they were going to have to play the Detroit Lions, they were in for 60 minutes of blood, sweat, and pain. But that Bears game 3 weeks ago changed all that. Even in a win and in front of the same demon that changed the trajectory of their season, they played even worse. You can blame the defense all you want because they haven't been good whatsoever, but the Lions' offense in this game was just putrid. The second half offense in particular was... It's really, really impressive how the Lions managed to have 9 wins and yet feel so hopeless. And all of a sudden, even after avoiding yet another 12-point fourth quarter collapse versus Detroit, the Bears behind Justin Fields have come alive, and more importantly, the defense. I'll swallow my L on Montez Sweat. Still, I don't think you're winning anything with him, but that man has transformed the Bears defense into a respectable unit. So, thank you, Chicago, for triggering this Lions collapse. It was a close call. They were almost really, really good this year, but thankfully, they're probably not. And if that were to happen, the universe probably would have just collapsed in on itself.
First, let me just restart that. Oh!
God damn it, man. It's been a hot minute since my last Falcons ran, right? I can't remember the last one, so let's do another one. Let's get it. So, this was a game that was obviously crucial for winning the best division in football by far, and the Falcons, who fended off the mighty Saints and Panthers, absolutely fell apart, piece by piece in this game. They kept losing limbs until finally Baker Mayfield ripped their organs out and watched them bleed to death. I can't understand what the Falcons' game plans are each and every week. The Bucs, although on paper have a strong run defense and seem like a pass funnel, Vita Vea was out for this game, so you'd think the logical decision would be to stick to the run game, your strength all year long if you had one, but that'd be boring, right, Arthur? So let's let Desmond Ridder completely off the leash. And the man... I mean, if you don't know how awful Desmond Ridder is at this point in the season, I can't help you. But just know that he should have had at least 4 interceptions in this game if the Bucs could catch, and his chemistry is still very, very off with his receivers. Atlanta's leader in carries had just 10 versus a vulnerable defense, and at the same time, Arthur Smith hopped back on Jonu's. And even when they had a lead, Baker Mayfield and the Bucs orchestrated a game-winning drive, taking up clutch plays, and the division crown is still up in the air somehow.
Whoa! Engulfed!
A gut punch for the Rams. Deep and heavy, straight to the old stomach. One of the most painful losses a team has had this year. Not just because of how they lost, which wasn't exactly the most healthy way to lose a game, but it was the opportunities that were missed throughout this game. The Ravens did not play a perfect game. Lamar looked great for the most part, but they left the door open for the Rams time and time again. But they couldn't connect it all together. Stafford took a massive sack, just barely missed DeMarcus Robinson another time for a big third down, and And instead of going for the win on the final drive, the Rams were forced to settle for a field goal and left the game up to pure luck. And none of that is mentioning the clock management skills of Eagles' Andy Reid that Sean McVay displayed in this game. And I know I sound very negative because it's easy to pile onto the losing team that gets their heart broken, but if anything, both teams learned something about themselves. Number one, this is just Ravens football as always. And number two, the Rams are actually a good team, just not good enough. It's a grim reality, but Stafford has been playing some of his best football ever recently, and even with all of the weapons around him, the team just can't beat the best of the best. So at this point with the season winding down, I don't see that changing, and a wild card and first round elimination is just going to be your ceiling. But good job, Ravens. That was a clutch Zay Flowers catch, and Marlon Humphrey almost sold it at the end, but it doesn't matter. A win is a win.
I think Joe Flacco is actually a very elite quarterback.
Hit the panic button, smash it as hard as you can, Jacksonville. The dark times have returned. The defense, the one consistent thing about this team, has been exposed again. I wasn't worried after the 49ers game because it's Kyle Shanahan, whatever, but then Jake Browning lit them up, and then, actually I was going to do a whole thing about, oh, Joe Flacco destroyed you, how embarrassing that is, but, I mean, it is Joe Flacco. Let's keep it clear here. He is elite, and one hell of a man. The defense is in shambles, besides a few guys and Josh Allen, of course, and the offense is still struggling. Lawrence is still not 100% clearly, Ridley's got no juice left, and Zay Jones still can't catch. So if Christian Kirk doesn't come back soon, this team is going to be food for some hungrier AFC team in the wild card. Meanwhile, the Browns offense, after lighting up Jacksonville, just decided to hit the brakes completely and relied on their defense and Dustin Hopkins to close it out, which they did. And I might just shed a tear. It's so beautiful. Look at this. Joe Flacco named the starting quarterback for the rest of the season for the Browns. It's truly one of the greatest days in football history. I might just have to buy a jersey. I have no words. It's incredible.
It's not fair!
Well, this was the Colts' worst game of the year. No question about it. They might actually just miss the playoffs now, and the Bengals were quite possibly the worst team this loss could have come to. Jake Browning is just, I guess he's just good now. I was beyond skeptical that his breakout performance versus Jacksonville was a fluke, but he looked strong again on Sunday. And not only him, but everything looked pretty damn good. Almost every single aspect of this game, receiving, running, coaching, defense, it looked better than what the Colts offered. And I guess the Colts were a playoff team, so take that for what you will, Cincinnati. I'm a non-believer, though. I still don't think that Jake Browning is going to make the Bengals have any semblance of respect in the wild card, and the best they're going to do is give us one fun game, because Joe Burrow is still the core to this team, and as it stands right now, the Bills and Broncos are coming for those last two AFC spots, so I'm not sure Jake Browning can keep pace.
All right, and nobody's blocking.
Who's ready for some Carolina Panthers football? Yeah. Woo! This week, let's see what new creative ways the Panthers can come up with to cremate Bryce Young, slowly molding him into a slightly more elusive David Carr. I can't watch this team play football. It's disrespectful to the sport itself. 3 completions at halftime for Bryce Young, and the game was still relatively competitive. That was until the Saints realized they couldn't even lose this game if they tried, and behind Derek Carr's blazing 119 yards, they won. They won the game. Man, I hate the NFC South. I don't think Roger Goodell likes the Texans. They were fun earlier this year, very fun, but their time to die has arrived. A date with the New York Jets at MetLife is the football equivalent to being sentenced to the electric chair, and Houston fans watched helplessly as injuries piled on and on and on, and more importantly, to Nico Collins and CJ Stroud, and also Zach Wilson managed to throw for 300 yards, which happened somehow. The Jets still aren't playing for anything, but at least Zach Wilson went out there and proved to everyone wrong that he can actually be a below-average backup for the next couple of years. In Houston, these games happen, but the injuries have just become too much. The secondary's been banged up all year with Petrie, Stingley, and Jimmy Ward coming in and out of the lineup, but now with Tank Dell and Nico Collins and CJ Stroud hurt on offense, it might be a wrap. This team is still going to play hard, no doubt about it, but at some point, the talent pool might just run dry, and the playoffs are looking more and more like a long shot. But before we get into the later games, we gotta talk about this video sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest way to play fantasy sports, and the best way to do that, in my opinion, is through the pick'em game format, where you simply choose whether you believe a player will go higher or lower on a singular stat, and depending on how many you get right, you can actually win up to 20 times your initial money. And for these upcoming Sunday games, I've already got 2 picks right here, and for what it's worth, I've kind of been on a hot streak when I've given out these picks so far. I haven't missed one, so no promises, but here I'm going with Ezekiel Elliott over 52.5 rushing yards and Jerome Ford under 46.5 rushing yards. So if you want to tail this pick'em entry, then click the link in the description or pinned comment to sign up with promo code Tubfrog, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. Also, if you sign up using my code for the first time, you'll receive a free pick'em offer this week, where all Austin Eckler has to do is get a singular yard versus the Raiders. So if that sounds good, go have some fun on Underdog and use promo code Tubfrog to make the games more spicy. And with that, let's get back into the recap. 3-0. I watched this whole game. God, I hate myself. How do I even analyze this game? Punts, back and forth over and over again, until finally, both coaches had a choice to pull their quarterback, and Kevin O'Connell pulled the trigger, and Antonio Pierce just sat there and watched. And Nick Mullins, in place of the deceased Josh Dobbs, led the Vikings to 3 points, and Aiden O'Connell did not. But honoring the Sailors' code, the captain went down with the ship, and Antonio Pierce and the Raiders lost 3-0. And that's the first time that's happened since the goddamn Mud Bowl. One of these days, I'll promise you a Raiders rant. It'll come, but at this point, I don't have the energy to care. And honestly, I haven't had the energy to care all year. This has been one of the most boring years ever of being a fan. Usually, when we're bad, we're bad in a fun way. We'll have huge leads, and then we'll blow them all, and we'll have a great laugh at our collapse. But we're not even good enough to hold leads, and off the top of my head, I can't even remember one fun game we've had. It's been a rough season. It really has. Can we hire Jim Harbaugh, please? Well, this game ended the second Geno Smith was announced as out. Drew Lock didn't play terribly, I guess, by his standards, but the thing is, Drew Lock wasn't even their biggest issue. Julian Love and the rest of the safeties were barbecue chicken all day long. It was insane. The Seahawks got zero pressure 90% of the time, and one-on-one, George Kittle or someone else would just deep fry their defender. It was like the Seahawks looked scared to tackle out there. And on the other side of things, the 49ers' biggest issue is, I guess, figuring out if A, Kyle Shanahan can legally win the MVP, and if not, which one of their other offensive guys can win it, with McCaffrey and Purdy both being the leaders in that. So I guess somebody needs to figure out how to stop the 49ers, because the way that this Shanahan scheme has been working, this juggernaut isn't going to be slowed down anytime soon. They actually did it. They killed him. Justin Herbert was sacked 4 times in the first half, and his finger is now gone. This is weird. Do I get mad? Or should I just be grateful that Justin Herbert can rest now? He doesn't have to be involved with this team anymore. And even though the Broncos didn't do anything particularly impressive, they played against ass Easton Stick. So, yeah, they won. And he's somehow not fired yet. How does he have a job? I don't understand. I don't get it. They need to just eliminate everyone. Get rid of the whole coaching staff and start a rebuild, because there is no future with this team. Well, this game sort of defined the Chiefs this year. They weren't playing very well, but they sort of brought the Bills down to their competition level, which is sort of a weird thing to say given these teams' records, but the Bills dunked on Kansas City early and then sort of cooled off. But the story of the entire game was the ending and all the miscues that got the Chiefs to that point. This team has the record they have right now because of their recent roster decisions. MVS, Sky Moore, and the others have just been ass, and the narrative around this team has been Mahomes has been the victim, and yeah, to be honest, he kind of has been. These guys can't catch anything. And all of that culminated in one of the best plays you'll ever see being wiped off the board because Kadarius Toney can't get his head off the line. Now, although Toney was clearly not set, it can't feel great to then watch as Von Miller does quite literally the exact same thing and no flag was thrown. But Mahomes' whole meltdown at the end of the game probably wasn't the greatest look either, so in a certain light, it probably offsets things. This Chiefs team is playing exactly how I thought they were going to play last year. Not having Tyreek Hill on this team is really starting to hurt. Travis Kelce is being double-teamed, and turns out teams aren't super concerned about the elusive route-running ability of Sky Moore and the downfield threat of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So you got to get your things together, Kansas City. And for Buffalo, we knew you had this in you, so I'm not super surprised, but to be honest, I was kind of hoping you would lose on that lateral play. That would have been great. But use this game as motivation to get into the playoffs, and then you can really start to piss some teams off. What the Philadelphia? This is just an all-time choke. 2 weeks in a row. Yes, you've played against two of the best teams in the league, but all you needed to do was win one of those games. One game, and you'd have the first seed pretty much locked up. But no. That's way too difficult. And this game, you just looked flat. From the first play on, it seemed like the Cowboys were hungrier and wanted it more, and they grinded you to death at your own game, making it not even close. This might be the worst game Jalen Hurts has played since he's been considered good. It was absolutely a masterclass in how not to play quarterback. It was just embarrassing on every level. I don't want to talk about this game anymore, Philly. You cannot lose another game this year, or else you might just be the biggest frauds in the NFL. The first of this double-header Monday game, the Giants and the Packers. This was a pretty fun game, albeit a boring one for the most part, because both these teams can't score points, period. But eventually, as the game dragged on, the entertainment got cranked up a little bit more, and all of a sudden, Jordan Love and Tommy DeVito were going at it, scoring actual touchdowns. I didn't think these teams were capable of that. The game would have been a free Giants win if Saquon didn't fumble the ball, but luckily Roger phoned in to the Giants and told them to make the game more competitive, and he did. And then Jordan Love went straight down the field, and although he didn't have the best of games, he actually didn't look great for the most part, but he still flashed some potential, and once again, for Packers fans, you can't really ask for much more. And especially on that touchdown throw, and the pass before that was broken up, those were two very special throws, and unfortunately, you played against Tommy DeVito. What else do you want me to say? You left too much time on the clock for Tommy, and the Giants, no, they are nowhere near the playoffs. I don't want to hear a word about that. What did this game happen? So, Connor Williams, Tyreek Hill, Xavier Howard, and Jalen Waddle, and whoever the hell else, all got injured in the first quarter for the Dolphins, and it actually looked like Tennessee was going to hang around in the game, even without Jeffrey Simmons themselves, and they did. Vrabel executed his game plan perfectly. He did what we couldn't. The Raiders were unable to make this game plan happen, but the Titans did it. They just murked everything up with the Dolphins and brought them down to their competition level. All they needed was one big play from Will Levis, and the Titans could steal this game, and then they collapsed. The special teams muff was horrible, and then the botched handoff fumble thing, oh my god, I can't believe it. And this game is over just like that. It was fun while it lasted, though, but Miami's gonna do the thing again, aren't they?
From the pocket, now takes off, flips it into the end zone, touchdown. Henry cuts it back, dives and scores in Tennessee.
How does this keep happening? Is this just Mike McDaniels' signature move, the December choke? I don't understand. This team has too much talent to be as bad as they are right now. I guess this is just the week of the one seed falling apart. But before we go, you know what time it is. It's time for the Tubfrog Discord Awards, where I turn to you, the people, and see what you thought were the best and worst highlights from Week 14. And if you want to join this whole process, join the Discord. The link is in the description, and I post the polls after every Monday game. And with that, you said the best play from Week 14. Obviously, come on, it was never a competition. Tylan Wallace's walk-off punt return for a touchdown damn near got every vote, and it deserved pretty much all of them. And then also staying in that game, we got Ravens versus Rams as the best game of the week. I gotta say though, Titans versus Dolphins put up a solid fight, and then the best player performance, it came down to the wire, but Dak Prescott, he was balling out there. I'll give him that. He looked calm and composed. I didn't think he'd win the poll, but here he is. And then the worst team performance, the Raiders. And then the worst individual performance from Week 14, This poll idea is a stupid idea. This is dumb. And then I asked what your favorite breakfast item was, and you guys, you like pancakes. Pancakes are cool, but I don't know, I think bread is a little bit better. Anyways, if you guys like this video, then subscribe, because I got a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And if you like this video, then watch this video that I just did on the tragedy of RG3. It's pretty good, trust me. And thank you to all my Patreons for pledging $1. It really does mean a lot. But anyways, until next time.